Hey everybody, so with Baldur's Gate 3 out for a while, I figured I'd make a Baldur's Gate 3 race tier list. Before we go any further, I want to say why it would be important to do this, because the ability score, the assigned bonus for races in Baldur's Gate 3 is every single race gets a +2, and every single race gets a +1. It doesn't matter what you play, you get a +2 and a +1. So the racial ability points are the same for every single race. So what you know on the tabletop isn't very applicable to Baldur's Gate 3. Now, I think that is a good system. I do not play the tabletop. I have never played D&D on a tabletop in any serious capacity. So with that said, I'm going to say that this tier list will be made entirely on the basis of how strong they are within Baldur's Gate 3. Not within D&D the tabletop, not within D&D anything else, only within Baldur's Gate 3. There are some racial differences. I'll tell you the ones I know about, but to be blunt, once again, I don't play D&D, so I'm looking at it entirely from a video game perspective. If there are some racial differences between the tabletop and this game, I have tried to Google around, but you know, like I don't have that knowledge on the top of my head that I can directly compare. So if I miss some of them, I'm sorry, but I will try to compare, you know, the tabletop to this game and try to explain why a race might be stronger or weaker than they are on the tabletop. Okay. So, going top to the bottom, we have S, A, B, C, D, and F. I know I keep putting addendums here at the beginning of this video, but I think it's important to do just so people understand where I'm coming from. I would also recommend that you do not pay 100% attention to this tier list. No race is so strong that you should play them. No race is so weak that you shouldn't play them, with one exception that I'll get into later. Okay. So, I would recommend you play Baldur's Gate 3 as a role-playing game. Play whatever you want to play, and then work from there. Because there's no more racial stat lines, you can do a half-orc mage. You can do a gnomish warrior. You can do any of this stuff, and you'll be absolutely fine. Does everybody get that? Okay. I would recommend doing that, because the game is best enjoyed just playing a role, making a character, then playing along that character. If you want to play Tactician mode, the game's hard mode, and you want to just min-max, that's fine. But I think even within Tactician mode, there's enough leeway that just directly min-maxing isn't always the way you should play the game. There's heavy buffs to martials, for example, that I might get into in a different video, but there's heavy buffs for martials. As I understand it, on the tabletop, they have difficulty scaling. In this game, they really don't. They're good early, mid, and late game. Maybe not as good late game as mages, but certainly much stronger than they are on the tabletop. I'm just saying all this before I get into the video. So up first, we have Elf. Okay. Elf has regular movement speed, proficiency with long sword, short bow, and long bow. To be blunt, I don't think this is very important. I think if you're playing a fighter, then you already have proficiency with the stuff you need. If you're playing a barbarian, then you already have proficiency with the stuff you need. Mages don't really care about this stuff. I just don't think that this is important. It's not gonna add anything. Sure, you could do a mage with a longbow, but then your dexterity is gonna be so low that it doesn't really matter. I'm not really sure. Maybe on tabletop this does different stuff, but other than the meme of just using a longbow for the first couple of levels, I don't think that this is very important. Dark Vision also basically does nothing. To my knowledge, it very rarely has any actual in-game functionality. I don't think it really removes anything. Like, it doesn't remove blindness. It doesn't... basically, there's a cone in front of your character that's a little bit more lit up in the dark, but I don't think it actually impacts the gameplay itself. So far, there's two things for elves that aren't really that important, but here we have advantage in saving throws against being charmed, and magic can't put you to sleep. This is actually quite powerful. To be clear, from people who play the tabletop, the way I understand it is the DM is not a jerk on the tabletop. In Baldur's Gate 3, the AI is a jerk. The AI is a dick. The AI is a straight up asshole. The AI will, if it outnumbers you and it has the action economy, it will put you to sleep, attack you multiple times, then put you back to sleep before your turn just to do it again. It can't consistently do it, but it will try to do it. It will obliterate you. It will charm you. It will destroy your life if it can. Fey Ancestry is an extremely powerful thing to just say, no, I'm playing an Elven Warrior / Barbarian. You can't do that. So, Fey Ancestry is quite powerful. Then it has two sub-races, High Elf and Wood Elf. Now, High Elf enables you to have a cantrip. It's okay, I guess. You can get Friends, you can get Blade Ward. Blade Ward is okay, but it takes an action. I haven't really figured out much use from getting an additional cantrip. The best I can figure is Friends, just so you can do dialogue better. There's also True Strike, but then you need to use an action for it. Using an entire action to help your next action is just not very good. Mage Hand in this game is nerfed into the ground. You only get one use per short rest. That's because of an exploit. This has basically been a temporary solution to my knowledge, but because Mage Hand only recovers on a short rest, it's not very good. Dancing Lights is... All these are kind of pointless. I'm going to be blunt. Best I can figure is Friends to try to get you through dialogue. I don't really understand the use of a cantrip. So I'll put High Elf in a good B tier. High Elf is a good B tier champion in my opinion. The immunity to sleep and charm, the no debuff. You could do some funny stuff like longbow, but to my knowledge, longbows are martial weapons anyway. So if you want to do a fighter with a longbow, you can already do that anyway. So I might be missing something. I'm not sure. I don't know. Wood Elf moves 1.5 meters faster by default forever on every character. That is extraordinarily powerful. Not listed here for some reason. You might notice it if you've been paying attention to the right, but you've probably noticed something that is changing. Stealth proficiency. Yes, that's right. Stealth proficiency. Wood Elf gives you stealth proficiency. On the tabletop, to my knowledge, this was Wood Elves had an easier time stealthing. They could stealth in dim lidded surfaces or something like that. They had an easier time getting into the stealth state. That translate in this game into stealth proficiency. So in addition to having fleet of foot, which is one of the most powerful things, and immunity to sleep, and resistance to charm, and now stealth proficiency, Wood Elf is extraordinarily good. I would go ahead and put Wood Elf in S tier. I'm playing a Wood Elf warrior that I did kind of just because it seemed the strongest thing. Not that I always do that, but it just seemed like the strongest. So I wanted to try it, and yeah, basically you always can get into range, so you can always be using melee attacks. You can't be slept. You're resistant to charm. Until you put on heavy armor, you also are pretty decent at stealth. So you go 14 dex fighter. You have decent stealth because you have proficiency at stealth. It's just for merely being a race, Wood Elf fighter is extraordinarily powerful. Now, I just want to say in my previous tier lists, there was, if I put something in S tier, like in different games, if I put something in S tier I normally reserve for things I would probably nerf if given the chance. Nothing in this game is so strong, at least with racial bonuses, nothing is so strong that I would nerf it. I would say that it is strong, but in this case, S tier is not. Just so anyone's coming into the comments and being like, in your Diablo video, you said S tier was nerf tier. Well, I'm not saying that in this one. I just want to clarify that. Wood Elf is strong, obviously, and probably overall one of, if not the strongest races, but I would not say S tier is nerf tier. The difference is, it's not so significant. Unless you compare S to F tier, the differences are not so significant that it will make or break the game. Obviously, I think Wood Elf is stronger than High Elf. So if you're just trying to metagame, go with Wood Elf. If you don't want to be a Wood Elf, then just go High Elf and grab the Friends enchantment, and you can do checks and stuff like that easier, which could very much make your day easier. Or you could grab an early cantrip to get more. You could go, for example, I think maybe sorcerers can get like Firebolt here, then go with 2 cantrips. Or I don't really understand the game to its fullest. But I don't think High Elf is weak. I just think Wood Elf is stronger because Fleet of Foot seems to have more usefulness. Obviously, not every character is going to stealth. So stealth proficiency is not going to carry you. You do need to go some in dexterity, and you do need to actually use stealth to make stealth useful. So stealth by itself, stealth proficiency by itself, you could go the entire game and never use stealth, and it would not even bother you. But this movement speed is extraordinarily useful. Okay. Tieflings. Tieflings get dark vision, which, as I've said, is questionably useful. Then they get fire resist. Much like the resistance to charm, and much like the resistance, or I should say immunity to sleep, fire is probably the best damage in the game. Not because fire has some inherent advantage against other things, but rather just all the best damage happens to be fire. Now, I'm not saying that if something does fire damage, it will be better. In fact, things that do fire damage will likely be worse because a lot of things have fire resist. All I'm saying is the best damage, fireball, explosive barrels, grenades, all that stuff just happens to be fire damage. Do you get it? Okay. Other than that, they have, you can choose a sub-race. You can get a cantrip, produce flame, which is, there's like one part in the game where this might be relevant. Mage Hand, which, as I've said, I think this would be really good, but it's kind of been nerfed into the ground temporarily. I think in the future this will be significantly better. Once again, not really doing anything. Gain advantage on intimidation and performance chess. This one is, I believe this one's actually pretty decent. So you could do a Zerial Tiefling, and I think this one's just kind of be the best. So these two don't do anything. This one's pretty good. Really good racial bonus, just resistance to fire. That's just really good. People generally consider this good. Your team can fireball on top of you if you're melee, and it won't chunk your health to pieces. I mean, it'll still chunk you, but it won't put it to pieces, right? You can early game survive through explosive barrels. The AI loves to blow you up in various ways with various different abilities. Firebolt is a very, very common cantrip that a lot of different characters use. Just fire resist. I know this doesn't seem that exciting. Races in this game tend to not do that much, but this one in particular, fire resist on its own, I would put Tiefling here. I think all the Tiefling sub-races are about the same in power. This one's obviously, Zerial Tiefling's obviously a bit stronger, so maybe I should specify Zerial, then the rest of Tieflings. Is this clear to everyone? They're like a tiny bit stronger, but it's really, in my opinion, it's not enough to really like say, is Zerial Tiefling S tier? Maybe, but I just personally think Wood Elf and their movement speed is kind of crazy. So, okay. Next up we have Drow. Drow have Drow weapon proficiency, rapier, short sword, hand crossbow. Once again, cool, I guess. I'm not really sure why this would be relevant to anyone. If you want to use them, then your class gives you proficiency. If you don't want to use them, then why would you want to use them? Superior dark vision. Can see in the dark up to 24 meters. Once again, it's a neat quality of life, but I'm not sure it has any actual gameplay applications. It could be useful. I have not played Superior Dark Vision, so it might actually illuminate the dark so much that this actually starts helping you. Maybe to like see traps or stuff like that. I don't know. And then of course I have Fey Ancestry. Fey Ancestry is extraordinarily good. As compared to Elf, they are just basically stronger elves, because instead of weak dark vision, they have strong dark vision. That's honestly, that's about it. So other than that, they're basically the same as elves. So are there sub races as good? No. I'm gonna be honest, I don't think their sub races do anything. So actually, if I'm gonna be real here, it should probably be like this. And then I'll put Drow are down here. So High Elves I'm actually gonna move into A tier because I just kind of remembered that not a lot of races do anything, so obviously high elves should be in A tier, right? Obviously. Drow are going to be in B tier, because Fey Ancestry is just really good. I think high elves are better, because obviously the cantrip is worth more than just having better dark vision. Cool, I guess. Humans. Okay, my understanding is that... on the tabletop, humans give +1 to every stat, which is just generally considered very powerful and can make characters without any weaknesses by having every stat at least as a 10, allowing you alternatively to get 3 different stats to 16 opener. In this, they just get a +2 and a +1. So that hasn't translated very strong. So they get Civil Militia, which does nothing, with the exception of shield proficiency and light armor proficiency, which does seem to be an advantage. Being able to wear light armor and being able to wear shields does seem to make you stronger. This allows mages in particular to get AC values that make them not squishy, which means a light armor mage with a shield can... And remember, on the tabletop, this doesn't seem very applicable, but let me remind old tabletop players, the AI in this game is an asshole. If they have 3 archers, they will not shoot at your tank, they will not shoot at your front line, they will not care. They will see the mage in the back with 10 AC, with 20 HP, they will all unload and they will kill them on their turn every single time. They will not care, they will not listen to the player not having fun. They will not listen to the player crying. They will not listen to the player re-rolling. They will just kill their mage over and over again. So, with that said, getting your mage up to 15 AC so they don't just get bopped every single round is applicable. To fighters, this does nothing. To barbarians, this does nothing. But Civil Militia is actually decent. I'll put it that way. It's actually not bad at all. Being able to use spears, pikes, and halberds and glaives, I'm not... Once again, this is one of those things where it's like, if you want to use them, then you have proficiency for it. If you don't want to use them, I'm not really sure. But light armor and shields can help people out. Human versatility. Select an additional skill to be proficient in as your carrying capacity is increased by a quarter. Okay, the carrying capacity is a quality of life thing. The thing is, you don't really want to be using multiple characters and like selling stuff and picking up stuff across multiple characters. It's annoying. Particularly if you're playing in single player. In multiplayer, it can also be annoying if you have... Because if hypothetically, if a bunch of people died and you didn't have anyone to sell gear to for a bit, you would need a lot more carrying capacity to carry your gear around. Could you send it to your camp, then lug it back to, could you do this other stuff? Yes, you could bypass carrying capacity and it would be annoying. But this is a quality of life buff. So you can choose an additional skill to be proficient in. Now, the thing here that I will say, so let's go to, let's say it fighter. So we're human fighter. Abilities. We can change what abilities we are proficient in. Okay, so I'm not 100% sure here how this works, but basically we have I'm gonna be blunt, I don't really know how this works. So we have a oh boy, it's like I mean, it's not my fault though. You can see how the UI is literally breaking, right? It's not my fault. So we have an additional 1, I think that's from human, and then 2 from, I think that's by default. So the only skill that's applicable in combat. Okay, so you can do a 1 and a 2, and then the UI breaks. So you can see, okay, that's what I've been trying to do. It's just the UI keeps breaking. Oh, I have had this thing on the entire time. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that thing was like kind of on the UI being annoying as crap over there. I could remake the video, but I am like 20 minutes in, so you guys will just have to deal with my unfortunate UI being there. Okay, I wanted to double check that I could do this. So you can choose... Oh, it's really weird. Okay, so I think what it's doing is it's breaking down. You can't put them both into the same category, but the UI seems to break. Okay, so you can't put your human proficiency and your regular proficiency in the same skill. I've been trying to figure this out. It's really annoying. I'm sorry. I apologize for this being like a dead point in the video, but like you can see the UI is literally breaking here because it's just... So you can't get 3 skills. Okay, now let me move past it. The skills that are applicable in combat are athletics and acrobatics. So these 2 skills are applicable in combat. Acrobatics resist being shoved, and athletics helps you resist being shoved and helps you shove. Acrobatics also helps you land on your feet, which is applicable to some skill checks as well. So athletics and acrobatics are really good. I shouldn't say really good, but they're good in combat. The AI will. I have mentioned this to you guys. They're assholes. The AI will shove you off a cliff. It will shove you into lava. It will do all this stuff. Will it directly throw you? No, the AI seems that they don't throw you, but they will shove you. And because they will shove you, if you're playing a frontlining character, it can be a very good idea to get both athletics and acrobatics. This means that the humans, see, you can see the UI is just breaking and making it so difficult on me. So you can see the human's additional skill. If you're trying to do a frontliner and you're trying to be strong, you have athletics, acrobatics. So I'm doing a fighter. I'm athletic. I'm acrobatic. And then I decide, okay, but also I want to have a skill in investigation because I just want to investigate. Now, the problem I have with this system is that this very much seems to be an out of combat system. Every single choice here, other than these 2, are for combat. Or sorry, for not for combat. These 2 are very applicable in combat. The problem that I have here, the problem is that I do not believe athletics and acrobatics should be in here because they are combat skills. They don't seem to have any application in talking. The rest of these are either sort of you're walking around the world and you can figure out what a painting means. It helps you in conversation with people. So the rest of these, other than sleight of hand, are non-combat. Or I should say stealth and sleight of hand are also technically non-combat in their own way. But so basically all of these are non-combat in their own way, right? These 2 are combat. So the problem I have with this system, I'm not going to go too much into this. I'm just sort of, you know, I guess going on a bit of rant here to try to explain where I'm ranking human because, yeah. Basically, human can go both combat skills, then choose one for fun. Do you get that? It's not really making your character stronger, especially if they're not going to face. But if you do want a sort of like a fighter who can also talk to people, then you're going to have to go human because only human, well, I mean, you can make any character do anything, right? So it's like, do what you want to do, I suppose. I'm kind of spending too much time on human, and I apologize for it, but I'm giving you my thoughts here. Basically, you can also do animal handling, which might help, like if you're doing like a melee ranger beast handler, something. I don't know. You know, make your own adventure out of this. Human, at the very least, I should say, human lets you do more, especially if you're trying to talk to people. Yeah, there's no human subrace to get an advantage or anything. Overall, as I understand it, humans suffered from going from a +1 on everything to a +2, +1. Humans definitely suffered on that. Boy, oh boy, how would I fix it? I think humans could maybe use an additional skill proficiency. Maybe they get 2 additional skills to be proficient in. The carrying capacity doesn't do anything. At either rate, I'm going to put humans at C tier. They're fine, I guess. They don't really have a weakness, right? They're not weak. It's just they're not strong. Githyanki. Okay, I spent way too much time on humans. Oh boy, oh boy. I'm contemplating if I should just restart this video, but maybe there's one person out there who likes hearing me rant about humans for 10 minutes, right? Okay. Githyanki. They have ancestral knowledge. Gain proficiency in all skills of a chosen ability. I'm going to be dead honest. I have not experimented enough with Githyanki to understand the full implications of this. It seems like it could be strong. It lasts until long rest. So, yeah, it seems like it could be strong. For cantrips, they get Githyanki, Psionics, Mage Hand. I think they can change it later. I'm not sure. They have base movement speed, Martial Prodigy. They get armor proficiency with light and medium, and proficiency with short sword, great sword, long sword. I don't know how many debuffs you get for wearing medium armor as a mage. I don't think there's any. I don't know if the D&D system does that. A lot of systems do that. But again, I'm not like... I haven't seen any debuffs, but then again, I hate mages and I don't play mages. But being able to wear medium armor on any character of any class seems pretty decent. So Martial Prodigy seems pretty decent. Being able to use great swords on any character seems pretty decent. Great swords are good. Okay. So Githyanki are pretty good. They have no subclass. Overall, Ancestral Knowledge seems good. Mage Hand is nerfed, so maybe they'll be stronger later. Martial Prodigy, Racial Movement Speed. Overall, I'm not going to spend that much time on Githyanki. I'm going to put them here. They're about as good as a human, I'd say. They're good. They're fine. I know I just said that humans are like, but like humans have nothing bad with them. They only have strengths, right? So, like, their ability and does stuff, but like Githyanki, I mean, if I was going to like really tier it fairly, I think I would put Githyanki in front of humans. I think Githyanki are probably better than humans for now. But there's not like enough, there's not enough of a power difference to really put them on a different tier. Okay, then we get to dwarves. Oh boy, dwarves. Okay, so you get proficiency with battle axe, hand axe, light hammer, and warhammer. Who cares? Once again, if you have strength on your character, then you're already proficient. Because if you have strength, then you've rolled barbarian or paladin or fighter, and if you've rolled strength, then you're already in a position where you can use the weapons that you want to use. Dark vision, who cares? The Githyanki don't have dark vision. Huh. Dark vision, who cares? Dwarven resilience. You have advantage on saving throws against poison, and you have resistance to poison damage. Good stuff there. Good stuff. Unfortunately, they only get 7.5 movement speed. That is actually substantial. The base movement speed reduction, the encounters seem to be... What's the way to put this? The world map and the encounters seem to be done with the intention that you have 9 movement speed. 7.5 movement speed puts you just out of range of enemies so many times that on my Dwarven Paladin run, I am experiencing intense sorrow and grief. So do their subraces make up for this rather substantial debuff, considering all of this basically does nothing? Dwarven Resilience, I will grant you, is sparingly useful. Sparingly useful. I will grant you this one. Okay. Subrace, Gold Dwarf. You get 1 health and 1 health per level. So fighter goes from 12 to 13. Could it help? Sure. I guess. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's not bad at all, I guess. I mean... It's like, I mean, it's like effectively you get 2 more Constitution, right? But without the advantage of Constitution saving throws. Like, I'm just looking over here. It's basically like you have the advantage of 2 Constitution without 2 Constitution saving throws. It's not bad. It just... When you have a debuff as big as your character will constantly find themselves out of range, does 2 Constitution but not as good as 2 Constitution make up for it? Shield Dwarf, you get light and medium armor. So this is where I start saying, dwarves are no good. Because shield dwarf, great. You're a Githyanki, but with less movement speed and less other powers. Who cares? So shield dwarf is let me start ranking them because I have a lot. Well, I don't actually have a lot to say about dwarves, do I? Gold dwarf, F tier. Shield dwarf, I guess D tier. If you want to be a poison resistant little guy, if you want to be a dwarf mage will that'll help mitigate the disadvantage of moving slower, I guess. So you don't need movement as much, I guess, but even for mages, having less movement speed can kind of be impactful. Getting in position to get a better bolt off, moving in and out of cover during your turn, all this stuff needs movement speed. Poison is not the most damaging thing. It's okay. I'm not saying it's bad, but there's a clear power difference between fire and poison. Poison resistance is okay. Fire resistance is really good. So at this point, shield dwarf is just a worse tiefling. Sorry, a worse Githyanki. Dwargar gets superior dark vision and saving throws against illusions and being charmed and paralyzed. Dwargar, they're, oh boy, they're not blowing my mind, is all I'm gonna be saying here. They're better than a shield dwarf, and a shield dwarf is better than a gold dwarf, but man, I don't know how this works on the tabletop, but having less movement speed is kind of a big deal. For everyone, all the time, on every turn. It's a really big deal. And maybe the sub races would make up for it, but man, oh man, this sucks. This really sucks. And I don't really see them doing anything to compensate for this. Are they so bad that they make the game unplayable? No, in my opinion, no. Are they so bad that people playing a dwarf might start thinking to themselves, man, this combat just seems really hard for basically no reason? Yes, a lot of combats will actually be much harder because you went a dwarf. If you went a wood elf, a lot of combat as a martial would be significantly easier. If you went a dwarf, all combat will be harder. Do you get the difference? That's what I'm saying. Wood elf is up here, dwarf is down here. Because if one person is playing a gold dwarf and one person is playing a wood elf, the wood elf player will always be in range to melee attack every turn effectively. The gold dwarf will frequently find himself out of range. Are there some encounters where this doesn't matter? Yes, for sure. Are there some encounters where this will really matter? Yes, in fact, most of them this will matter. Especially because you'll be wanting to run down archers, you'll be wanting to get into their mages, you'll be wanting to get good throws, because throwing in this game, as I understand it, throwing and shoving in this game is significantly stronger than it is on tabletop. Improvised melee weapon, picking up enemies and hitting other enemies with them, is significantly stronger than it is on the tabletop. So movement speed is very important. They get 7.5 movement speed, a wood elf gets 11.5. That's 50% more. That's a lot. Half elf, okay. They get 9 movement speed. Civil militia, they get light armor and shields, good. Dark vision, good. Fey ancestry, really good. So they get light armor and a shield and resistance to charm and magic can't put you to sleep. And then they get 3 different sub races. Once again, we have wood half elf. Fleet of foot gives you bonus movement speed and you get stealth. Drow half elf gives you dancing light cantrip. High half elf. Oh, actually, no, you don't get to change it. Dancing light cantrip. High elf cantrip. This one you can change, and once again, we have all these choices. Okay, so how would I rank this? It's basically elf, but instead of useless elven weapon training, you get sometimes relevant civil militia. Again, I could be horribly wrong on this one, but I don't think I am. I'm not sure when it would be more efficient to shoot a longbow than to just be using a magical cantrip on a mage. Particularly as you get longer into the game, the elven weapon training just seems less and less and less and less and less relevant. Maybe if you get silenced or something like that, but I'm gonna be blunt. I've rarely seen a situation where you get silenced. It does happen. The further in the game you go, it does happen more and more. But there's rarely any counter spells. There's rarely any silences. Having to use physical weapons rarely seems to happen. So half elves are just stronger elves. Once again, we can see his proficiency to stealth. So the strongest would be wood half elf, in my opinion. In my blunt, harmless opinion, wood half elf would probably be the strongest race in the game. High half elf, still really good. We got that Fey ancestry, and we have civil militia, and you're better than drow half elf because dancing lights, but you could just choose dancing lights. Unless there's something else I'm not getting. Do we have? I'm not really. There's no proficiency changes, no skills changes, so drow half elf is just weaker high half elf. Got it. You want to be edgy McEdge? I'm gonna call it half drow. Do they call it half drow? They call it drow half elf. I'll call it half drow. Half drow, half high elf. High elf. Boy, these elven names are getting kind of long, I won't lie to you. So yeah, these are just elves, but they can use light armor and a shield. So, definitely applicable in a game, actually. Your mage can enter the game with a pretty decent AC now. They can have light armor and a shield, and you can do a lot of different things with them. So, yeah. Halfling. Okay. Halflings. We are getting into the reduced movement speed territory. Unlike dwarves, do these halflings have the capability to make up for it? Lucky. When you roll a 1 for an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, you can re-roll the die and use the new roll. That's relevant. It's only a 5% chance, but particularly as you reach higher and higher attacks and you're attacking more and more times per turn, let's say you're attacking 3-4 times a turn, that 5% chance is getting rolled a lot. Reducing that 5% chance to a 2.5% chance is significant. And it's attack rolls, ability checks, and saving throws. So lucky is pretty lucky. I would say lucky is pretty good. Brave. You have advantage on saving throws against being frightened. Frightened is actually pretty relevant. It does happen. I'm trying to think. I've been frightened a couple times a campaign. I've saved most of them, but the reality of the situation is frightened. The AI will try to frighten you because obviously it's Baldur's Gate. You're playing D&D. The enemies are big baddies and they're trying to do big baddie stuff. Grr, frighten you, right? So brave is actually pretty relevant. Lucky is pretty relevant. Base racial speed is low, but does it make up for it? I would actually say, unlike shitty useless dwarves, and I will continue to make fun of them, they look so cool, but they are useless and shitty. Unlike shitty useless dwarves with their shitty useless everything, halflings are pretty lucky. I would actually say lucky is pretty good. And I would say brave is also pretty good, because being frightened and having to not move for a turn kind of sucks as a lot of different characters. So I would put I would put halflings up in B tier. So what I am saying here, by the way, reduced movement speed doesn't kill a character. You just need something that can make up for it. That's what I would say. Dwarven, okay, so like resistance against poison, advantage on saving throws against poison, resistance to poison damage, that's good. I would definitely say it's good, but poison isn't that relevant. Gold dwarves are still fine. Like, I'm not saying gold dwarves are unplayable. Not by any stretch of the imagination am I saying gold dwarves are unplayable. I'm playing a gold dwarf campaign right now. I'm just saying you're making your game harder, and that's the point of a tier list. You are making your game harder. I would agree with that. I'm just defending this because there are people saying, well, actually, I play a gold dwarf and I'm doing just fine. Yeah, well, I mean, so do I. I'm playing a gold dwarf right now. I'm doing a gold dwarf paladin. It's hard. It's doable. I have to play slightly differently for sure. It's not so weak that I can't play the game because, let's be honest, these racial differences aren't that vast. They're not so vast that, like, oh, this character, yeah, you're going to want to not play him on the hard. Like, yeah, you can do anything. Okay. Gnome. 7.5 movement speed. Gnome cunning. You have advantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws. Once again, I'm gonna actually say this one. Halflings are pretty lucky. They have these pretty strong benefits to make up for the reduced movement speed. Gnomes also have a pretty strong benefit, an advantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws. These happen pretty frequently. And while you might pass them pretty frequently, the ones you don't pass suck. Having advantage on just all of them is pretty relevant. It's pretty hard to trick a gnome. Wait, I just realized. Yeah, I'm an idiot. The subrace for halflings. You have advantage on stealth checks. Well, that's pretty good. You have advantage on saving throws against poison and resistance to poison damage. Wait, I never thought about that. Now that I'm directly comparing them, Strongheart halflings are literally just better dwarves. Man, it almost makes me want to put halflings up in B tier because a halfling rogue is good. And a halfling, a lightfoot halfling is really good, and a strongheart halfling is also really good. The reduced movement speed is bad, but if you're playing a rogue, you can mitigate that by moving into combat in stealth, which actually would give you alternative playstyles, right? You have an advantage and a disadvantage, right? So you need to play around it, right? So that's fine. Strongheart halfling is resistant to poison, but in return, they're pretty lucky. They've got that brave. So that's pretty good as well. So actually, I would say halflings have a strong disadvantage and an advantage. Gold dwarf is tanky, but like level 5, you have 5 more health. Is that going to make or break the game? No. Is being unable to get into range to do 20 damage going to make or break the game? Yeah. Halflings, on the other hand, do have strong advantages to make up for it. Gnome, and I totally forgot about this, Gnome Cunning is already really goddamn good that I forgot about. I only thought about the fact that I wasn't checking their subraces when I thought, wait, but I've seen a deep gnome in game. And then I thought about it, I'm like, oh wait, I didn't click down to the, okay. So Rock Gnome has Dark Vision and Artificer's War. Add twice your proficiency bonuses to history checks. Not that amazing, but their base buff is pretty good to begin with. Dark Sight, I guess, you know, Artificer's Lore could help in certain places, I guess. It's not blowing my mind, but it's not useless either. Forest Gnome. We could speak with animals. Wait, that's pretty good. Huh. So, in case anybody knows, wait, this is actually really good. I can explain this. This is a speak with animals that does not use a spell slot. And in this game, speak with animals lasts until long rest. It has a long rest cooldown, but it also lasts until long rest. So every long rest, you just cast speak with animals, And then you permanently can speak with animals for the entire rest of the game. It's so long as you remember to do that. There are so many animals to talk to, so many quests you can do with animals. There's a lot. They paid a lot of attention to speak with animals. I'm actually, unironically, just for that, this is going to seem really dumb. I'm going to put Rock Gnome here, but I'm actually going to put Forest Gnome up in A tier. That's pretty dang good, I won't lie. In fact, I'm going to have to, I'm gonna shorten that just so it's not killing everybody. Where would I put Forest Gnome amongst A tier? Well, let's see. I have them above Drow, who have Fey ancestry, but Drow don't do much beyond. I don't think Fey ancestry is so broken that it's a must-have. It's just pretty nice. So I would actually say that yes, there's a lot of things. I'm actually gonna say, just having Fey ancestry doesn't just automatically make you the best. Probably makes you better than Githyanki and humans, but yeah, I would say halflings and rock gnomes, if I have to think about it. Halflings are, I'm just going to list both halflings because they're both good in their own way, right? If you're playing a rogue, Lightfoot halfling is good, or if you're playing a dex fighter, maybe. Stronghold halfling, you get Stronghold resilience. So both halflings are, I would say they're about the same strength, just in different ways. So I'm just going to keep halflings listed as one category here. Now, Rock Gnome is what I consider a Rock Gnome. Artificer's Lore, Dark Vision. Artificer's Lore, from what I can tell, is mostly just, yeah. Gnome Cunning is pretty good. Oh, man, it's like, no, I definitely put halflings ahead of Rock Gnome. Halflings are pretty strong. I might even put halfling. No. I can't put everything in A tier. Okay, so Dragonborn. Okay, they have Hellish Resistance, Dark Vision, and, well, they have that, which is pretty decent. So then we come up to my favorite, well, not actually my favorite. Actually, to be blunt, one of my least favorite classes, Dragonborn. They're kind of boring. So what do Dragonborn do? They can take a resistance into one damage type, be it acid, lightning, fire, lightning again, acid again, fire again, poison. I knew there was a poison here somewhere. Fire, cold, or cold. So I'm pretty sure that's everything except necrotic. They can't do necrotic. They can do acid and poison. They can't do necrotic. At either rate, basically every damage type. But there are some enemies that actually do necrotic. So you would assume then by default I'm saying, aha, well obviously, resistance to fire damage. And yeah, that is good. I would say, in all honesty, red Dragonborns are pretty good. The rest of them are also decent. The funny thing is, I would say, boy oh boy, I would say black dragons are pretty good because although there isn't much acid damage, there is some, and I think very rarely do enemies resist acid breath. On the other hand, red dragons, you might get fire resistance, but you also do fire damage, and a lot of the enemies also get fire resist. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Not all the time. Like I said, maybe 5%. So I'm just saying, I would say probably red Dragonborn are the best, then black, then everyone else. Amongst Dragonborn, because I'm not listing all of these, I'm just going to put them in their color. Let's put red here. Now, are tieflings better? Tieflings do have dark vision, and they do have intimidation and performance checks. So it comes down to, are you valuing combat more, or are you valuing out of combat? In combat, Dragonborn do have their breath. So I would say tieflings are better out of combat. Dragonborn are better in combat. Yeah. I think I might pull tieflings back down to here. I'm going to pull tieflings down to B tier. That might seem mean, but now that I'm actually starting to rank them and not just doing it off the top of my head, fire resistance is definitely good. Definitely good. But I think reds are just... well, it's tough to say. Okay, I'm going to put red next to tiefling. Half drow and drow are going down here because... man, I almost want to pull high elves down now. Well, the problem is half drow, literally, they only exist for Fey ancestry. Whereas elves can do... high elves, at the very least, can do a cantrip, right? So, like, I still think high elves are good. Half high elves and... definitely... okay, here's what I'll do. I'm going to pull half high elf for keeping up here. But regular high elves... I'm going to put them down here. They're ahead of drow, but I'm going to keep them in B tier just to be fair. Because you put too many things in A tier. I think I'm undervaluing some of the stuff up here. Now, the one exception is, of course, Zerial Tiefling, because they are really good. The rest of the Tieflings are just fire resist, so they do nothing other than fire resist, right? So the rest of the Tiefling's not good, but Zerial Tiefling... I would still keep an A tier. I think that's a fair way to do it now that I'm looking at it. Because Zerial Tiefling, really good out of combat. Regular Tieflings, just fire resist. That's it. So, yeah. So then red... no, red... I'm definitely going to put red up here. Now that I'm looking at... I'm trying to reorganize this list as I'm going about it. Red dragon, I'm definitely putting up here. The rest of dragons, I'll probably put here. But red, just the ability to resist your own team's fireballs, resist fire barrels, it's pretty good. So like if you can do something in addition to that, aka if you can have a good breath attack for the early game, much like Zerial, I think red is up here. Should I just say fire dragon? There are other fire dragons, right? Hold on, are there other fire dragons? Yeah, gold dragon. And brass dragon. So I'll just do fire dragon. Man, that makes us scroll so much. Damn you, fire dragons. You're ruining my life. So yeah, fire dragons go in A tier. Other dragons go in B tier. I know I might sound like I'm being petty, but there is a difference between being able to fireball over your front line and not being able to fireball over your front line. Last up, we have Half Orc. Now, I've played Half Orc probably the most because I love orcs. Okay, so Dark Vision, normal movement speed, Relentless Endurance. This is probably one of the most unique things that different races can do because it's just a totally different skill that no one else really gets, right? Most of these are just, you get more HP, or you get a skill proficiency, a resistance to something. This is an actual difference. If you reach 0 hit points, you regain 1 hit point instead of becoming downed. Now, this seems decent, and it is decent, and depending on the situation, it's obviously much stronger or much worse. Are you being dot to death? Then it's not going to do you the most good. Are you shoved in lava? It's not doing anything. Are you shoved off a cliff? It doesn't do anything. Is the giant boss hitting you with his limited giga attacks? Then yeah, being able to survive one more giga attack is actually pretty good. So Relentless Endurance is actually pretty good. The next one is Savage Attacks. When you land a critical hit with a melee attack, your damage dice are tripled instead of doubled. It's good, but at the same time, it's also 99% of the time this doesn't do anything. You might say 95% of the time this doesn't do anything because you only crit on a 20, but you can roll multiple attack die with some barbarian skills. You can try to get some crit modifiers, stuff like that, right? So Savage Attacks definitely seems applicable if you build towards it. So I'll say, I'll be fair, I'll say like 95% of the time it does nothing, because you can build towards it, you can make it do stuff. The problem is that a lot of times when you crit, you overkill something so hard that it didn't really matter. It didn't really matter that you got more damage dice, right? The other problem is that you can crit something that was going to die anyway. Now, if you walk up and crit the big boss for 50, if you just walk up and boom, okay, great. Yeah, the big boss, you probably just RNG'd your way through an easy encounter, right? And savage attacks can contribute to that. It's good, it's just not... It's definitely something that's nice, and when other people look at half-orcs and you look at them, and they walk up to the guy and they crit him and they one-shot him, you probably think to yourself like, oh man, half-orcs are so good. But when you're playing a half-orc and you literally forget that you have savage attacks because it so rarely procs or matters, in that situation, you'll probably understand why I say savage attacks is good, but not really that amazing, okay? So we're basically looking at relentless endurance and savage attacks. Between the two of those, I would say... I know I've overloaded the higher tiers, but I'm going to do it again. Half-orc. Solid B tier. Oh man, when I look at it from this perspective, I think I need to move halflings. Do I need to move halflings? I don't know. I mean, a strong heart halfling, lucky and brave and poison resist. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna have to do it. I think I'm gonna put Lightfoot down in B tier. But I think I'm gonna put Strongheart up in A tier. The weakest of the A tier, but the thing is, I feel like Strongheart Halfling having advantage in saving throws against poison and resistance to poison damage and brave and lucky, that's like 3 different good modifiers for reduced movement speed. There's a lot of classes that can use this. Halfling mages can be good. Halfling melee can even be good because brave lets them be frightened way less. Poison also allows him to run through the poison clouds, which can appear sometimes. I might even say that halfling mages might be stronger than gnome mages, although gnome mages obviously will have high intelligence or wisdom or charisma, so reasonably, gnome mages will be rerolling and basically auto-saving everything, right? So, where do I have gnomes? I do have forest gnomes up here, though. Honestly, looking at it again, I almost want to put forest gnomes up in S tier. Because the advantage on all those saving throws and permanent speak with animals, God, that is so good. But the thing is, the half-elves just getting more movement speed is nutty. I think on the tabletop, that's probably not that applicable, and the DM might be able to just, like, nudge you into range, right? But in this game, it's just so applicable. Being able to run, then jump up a wall, then hit the archer versus not being able to do that is a very big deal. So I think I just, in all fairness, have to keep wood elves up here because, and maybe I'm overvaluing it because I keep playing melee characters because I love melee. But damn, if you're playing melee, that extra movement speed, it literally feels like butter. It feels like it's butter on my toast, man. So yeah, there's all the races. That's how I would rank them all. Now, you might say I basically just put Githyanki, human, and dwarves down here. And yes, I did. Yes, that is, you caught me. I consider basically all dwarves to be terrible. I think, basically, here's what I think. I think gold dwarves, the HP should just be rolled up into dwarven baseline. Because dark vision basically does nothing. Dwarven combat training basically does nothing. Dwarven resilience can be helpful, but once again, most of the time does nothing. So you are debuffing your entire character for effectively HP. Now I said those are the worst, but only because if I'm playing a dwarven melee, why would I ever go with a gold dwarf? Why would I ever go with a dwarven melee to begin with? If I was playing a dwarf and I was min-maxing, now I would never play a dwarf or a dwarf because they're evil slaving bastards, so I would just never do that to begin with. But if I was min-maxing a dwarf, I would go Dwargar, because illusions, charm, and paralyze is pretty good. Dwargar, okay, I might actually just put Dwargar. Okay, I'm gonna be fair to my good friend the Dwargar. I'm gonna put them in C tier. The worst of the C tier, but they're clearly at least decent. So maybe Gold Dwarf and Shield Dwarf should be buffed. Maybe Shield Dwarf should just be you have +1 AC, and maybe Gold Dwarf. I think Gold Dwarf would be better if it was like you gain 2 hit points increased by 1 per level. Because then at the very least said, well, no, because I have 5, you still have 6 HP. It's just not enough. The problem is you're using Gold Dwarf to completely make up for the base racial speed. 2 health would be way too much, because that means at level 5 you'd have 10 more health. That would be a bit much. I think 1 AC for Shield Dwarf would be good. Maybe it should be you have proficiency in light and medium armor, and if you wear light, medium, or heavy armor, you get 1 more AC. Maybe. That would help. And then Gold Dwarf. Honest to God, maybe just make your hit points maximums increase by 1. Increase by 1 every level and another every other level. So at level 5, it would be 2 for level 1, 2 for level 3, and then 1 otherwise. So it'd be 4, 6. 6 more health. Sorry, 7. Can I do math? Wait, 2 for 1, 2 for 3, then 2, 4, 5. Am I dumb? No, I'm stupid is all. It'd be 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. 8 more HP at level 5. That would be really good. I think that's how you do it. Even numbers, you get 1 HP. Odd numbers, you get 2 HP. That would make up, I think, for dwarf movement speed. Now, I could be totally off. Maybe this proficiency and dwarven combat training, maybe all of this is nuts, and I'm the crazy one. Maybe I'm the crazy one. I don't know. I don't multi-class that much. I would just say, overall, these characters are fine. These characters are probably better. These characters are getting pretty dang good. These characters are just like, okay. You know what I mean? So I would say this is how I'm going to rank the different races. Once again, not for RP. If you want to RP, RP. I would heavily encourage people to make a class, a name, a character that they want to play. If you don't like Wood Elves because they're goddamn Wood Elves, that's fine. Don't make a Wood Elf. You don't need to. The game is perfectly beatable on anything. Just comes down to learning the game. And I'm not saying that like other games who are like, oh, you just need to learn to have 700 APM and min-max every single category. No. You can beat the game even trolling yourself a good amount. And the game, reasonably, you should troll yourself a decent amount. Not deliberately, not to death, but, you know, maybe do some things that your character would do. Take some situations that your character would do. Get in a role, play a role. Role, play, game. Got it? Okay. Other than that, I think humans, once again, C tier, like they're fine. All of these are fine. They just don't like do anything. Dwargars, once again, this is like the only dwarf. Resistance, advantage against poison and illusions and charm and paralysis. It's good. Probably at this point, it still probably doesn't make up for the base racial speed. I'll be blunt, but at least it does something, right? So they're fine. So I would say this is probably my tier list on the different races right here. I would say if you guys play tabletop and you want to murder me, go for it. Leave a comment. Like, I'll kill you. My gold dwarf isn't a failure. I'll stab you to death. That's going in the book. So thank you all for watching. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, everybody. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Goodbye, everyone.